Welcome to today's deep dive. We are we're looking at a massive structural shift today, really a fundamental change in how information is discovered online.
Yeah, and more specifically, how the marketing industry is just scrambling to adapt to it.
Exactly. I mean, if you are a decision maker right now or a business owner, you've likely noticed this. Suddenly, every single marketing agency on the market is branding themselves as an AI search specialist.
It's wild. The pivot has been incredibly fast.
Right. You look at a vendor's website today, and all their legacy search services have just been entirely rebranded. They're totally covered in AI terminology
Just overnight.
overnight. So, the challenge we are tackling today is how you actually separate the genuine practitioners from the opportunists. How do you look at a proposal and determine who has a functional methodology for AI synthesis and who is, well, just riding a wave of industry panic?
It really is I'd say it's the defining challenge for vendor procurement right now.
Hmm.
Because if we connect this to the bigger picture, AI search is still an entirely emerging field. It's completely unregulated.
There's no certification for it.
None. There are no standardized qualifications or, established historical benchmarks for this specific type of optimization. Literally anyone can just update their LinkedIn headline to say they're an expert in generative engine optimization.
Which is terrifying for a buyer.
Absolutely. Because of that vacuum, the burden falls entirely on you, the client. You have to evaluate an agency based purely on the mechanical reality of their methodology, not their marketing copy.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Consider this deep dive your strategic framework for vetting these agencies. We are going to look under the hood of what actually makes a business visible to an AI.
And we'll equip you with the exact questions you need to ask in your next vendor meeting.
Right. But to do that, we have to start by defining the paradigm shift. The shift from traditional search behavior to generative synthesis. Because the old model was strictly positional.
Standard SEO.
Yeah. Standard SEO has always been about one thing, ranking positions in search engines. Getting to page one, spot one, it was a race to the top of a vertical directory.
And that directory model relies on entirely different mechanics than what we're seeing now. What's fascinating here is that the new landscape of AI search introduces a critical concept from our sources: interpretive clarity.
Interpretive clarity. Okay, break that down for us.
So AI search isn't simply providing a ranked list of hyperlinks for a user to sift through anymore. The system is doing the reading, it's synthesizing the data, and generating a conversational answer.
It's doing the work for you.
Exactly. So for a business to be included in that generated output, the machine must possess a high degree of interpretive clarity regarding what that business actually does.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because in the traditional model, you could sort of brute force your way to visibility.
Oh, absolutely.
You could optimize for specific high-volume terms, build an aggressive backlink profile, and even if your website's messaging was a bit disjointed,
Or totally terrible.
right, the sheer weight of those traditional signals could still push you up the page. But an AI acts more like a highly analytical researcher.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like if it's going to recommend your software platform or your consulting firm in a synthesized summary, it has to logically understand your specific utility.
And that is a critical distinction. The AI is calculating probability and relevance based on semantic understanding. It's not just tallying up incoming links. Which brings us to the immediate danger you face when hiring an agency right now:
The rebrand.
the rebrand. Because the market shifted so rapidly, many agencies are simply taking their legacy tactics, slapping them into a new presentation deck, and applying a find and replace strategy to their terminology.
They swap out the word ranking for AI visibility.
Exactly, but the underlying mechanical work remains completely unchanged.
Right. And without fundamentally adjusting the data architecture, the semantic structure of a brand's digital footprint applying old tactics is highly unlikely to influence a generative model. You cannot apply a directory strategy to a synthesis engine.
You really can't.
It's like trying to get an academic librarian to recommend your specific book out of millions simply by shouting the loudest in the library. If the librarian doesn't understand what your book is actually about, they won't recommend it.
That's spot on. If an agency's primary focus is still just manipulating traditional off-page signals without addressing how the machine actually reads and interprets your core entities, the fundamental mechanics are broken from the start.
So what practical signs should you, the listener, actually look for? What are the actual structural markers of a legitimate AI search agency?
Well, the sources we analyzed point to three distinct pillars of genuine expertise.
Let's hit the first one.
The first pillar is a definitive clarity of framework. A genuine agency must have a structured process for defining a business's organizational identity and subject alignment.
Let's delve into that, because when we talk about organizational identity in this context, we aren't talking of branding in the traditional marketing sense, are we?
Not at all. We are talking about entity resolution.
Meaning how clearly the language model associates your specific business entity with a specific, highly defined subject matter.
Precisely that. It's about creating an unambiguous semantic footprint. Let's say you're evaluating an agency, and they don't start by auditing how your core services are defined across your entire digital ecosystem.
That's a problem.
A huge problem. If your organizational identity is vague, like perhaps your site tries to be everything to everyone, mixing enterprise B2B messaging with, say, consumer-level blog content, an AI will struggle to confidently categorize you.
It gets confused.
Right. The agency needs to demonstrate a concrete framework for narrowing and hardening that subject alignment. So the AI receives a crystal clear signal of your authority in one specific domain.
Which leads directly into the second pillar, structural methodology.
The nuts and bolts.
Yeah, the actual execution phase. The agency needs to be capable of articulating exactly how they implement this clarity. According to the research, this heavily involves creating what they call internal consistency.
Internal consistency is the absolute bedrock of AI search visibility.
Explain that for us.
It means that every data point about your business, from your schema markup and semantic HTML to your technical documentation and external PR, aligns without contradiction.
No mixed signals.
Exactly. Large language models ingest massive amounts of unstructured data. If your homepage positions you as a high-end enterprise logistics platform, but years of legacy blog posts and outdated directory listings heavily emphasize small business shipping solutions, you've introduced semantic contradiction.
I hear what you're saying about internal consistency, but doesn't a business naturally evolve over time? Companies pivot, they expand product lines, they acquire other businesses.
Sure, constantly.
So how strict does this consistency really need to be before the AI penalizes you for having a complex, evolving digital footprint?
Well, it's less about being penalized and more about the dilution of confidence. Evolution is totally natural, but an agency's structural methodology must account for it by actively pruning, updating, and aligning historical data with the current organizational identity.
Cleaning house.
Yes. If a company pivots, the agency must ensure the new entity relationships are clearly defined in the site's architecture. To a traditional crawler, outdated pages might just look like extra indexed content. But to an LLM trying to construct a definitive summary of your current core business, contradictory historical data fractures the entity graph.
So a legitimate agency will have a rigorous methodology for auditing and resolving those contradictions.
They have to.
Okay, so what does this all mean for the expectations we set? Which brings us to the third pillar, and honestly, this serves as a massive reality check. Realistic expectations. The sources are unequivocal about this. Inclusion in an AI-generated answer cannot be guaranteed by any agency.
It is structurally impossible to guarantee.
If they promise it, they're bluffing.
100%. AI outputs are highly dynamic and highly personalized based on the user's specific conversational prompt and the context window. An AI does not have a static list of 10 slots to fill. It relies on what the research calls clarity and confidence signals.
Oh, confidence signals. I love that phrase. Let's break down that concept. In a probabilistic model, how does a piece of structured data translate into confidence for the machine? What does that actually mean?
Okay, so when an LLM generates a response, it calculates the statistical probability of which tokens, which words and concepts should follow one another based on its training data and its retrieval mechanisms.
Right.
A confidence signal is essentially a piece of structurally sound, highly consistent data that validates the relationship between your business entity and the user's query.
It makes the machine sure of itself.
Exactly. When an agency cleans up conflicting data and aligns your semantic structure, they are stacking those confidence signals. They are making the mathematical relationship between your brand and your core service undeniably strong.
But if guaranteed placement is impossible, how is an agency supposed to report ROI to a client? I mean, clients are historically used to seeing themselves sitting comfortably at the top of a search engine results page. How do you measure the value of a confidence signal?
That is the exact friction point the industry is experiencing right now.
I bet.
A genuine agency will shift the reporting conversation away from static rankings and toward share of voice within generative summaries. They'll measure how often and how accurately The brand is mentioned when specific, highly relevant prompts are fed into various AI engines.
Tracking comprehension.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are tracking the progression of the machine's understanding, rather than just a positional metric.
Which is a perfect transition into the practical application of all this. This is the toolkit, the interrogation room. You are sitting in a vendor meeting, you're looking at an agency's proposal. Based on everything we've synthesized from the sources, what are the specific questions you need to ask to interrogate their methodology?
You need a cheat sheet.
Yes, your personal cheat sheet. We have identified 4 crucial questions you need to bring to the table before signing any contract. Question number 1. How do you measure improvement?
The answer to this question reveals entirely which paradigm the agency is operating in. If their primary metric for success is tracking your domain authority or showing you a dashboard of keyword ranking movements, they are applying a legacy framework to a new problem.
A huge tell.
Yeah. As we just discussed, measuring improvement in an AI landscape must involve tracking visibility and sentiment within conversational outputs. Are you appearing in the generative overviews? And just as importantly, is the AI describing your services accurately according to your defined organizational identity?
And question number 2 takes that a step further. How do you test interpretive clarity? Because you are essentially asking them to prove that their structural adjustments are actually altering the machine's semantic understanding of your business over time.
This is a phenomenal filter question because it demands a technical response. A sophisticated agency will have a methodology for testing this.
What should that look like?
Well, they should discuss querying your business across different large language models before and after implementing structural changes. They should be looking at the context windows to see if the AI synthesis of your value proposition becomes more precise, more detailed, and more heavily weighted with your core messaging.
If an agency cannot explain how they test the machine's comprehension of your brand, their AI services are likely just theoretical.
Exactly. Just buzzwords.
Which brings us to question number 3. How do you differentiate AI optimization from standard search tactics? You want to force them to articulate the mechanical differences.
This is how you expose the find and replace agencies. Their answers should immediately gravitate toward concepts of context, entity relationships, and data structure.
They should be talking about organizing your content for machine synthesis, utilizing advanced schema, building knowledge graphs.
Right. If their answer quickly devolves into discussions about increasing keyword density, optimizing meta descriptions, and launching massive link building campaigns.
Run.
Yeah, they have not adapted their core services.
Okay, question number 4 is about timelines. How long do structural adjustments typically take to influence an AI's response?
This connects directly back to realistic expectations and the actual mechanics of how these systems operate. LLMs do not update in real time the way a traditional search index might process a new web page.
Because they have to be trained?
Right. They rely on training data cutoffs and complex retrieval mechanisms.
Yeah.
It takes significant time for an agency's structural changes to be crawled, processed, and ultimately reflected in the AI's confidence signals.
So an agency that understands this architecture will be highly transparent about the lag time between implementation and visibility.
They won't promise overnight results.
So alongside those 4 questions, you also need to be hyper aware of the red flags. What are the specific warning signs in a proposal or a pitch that indicate you're dealing with snake oil?
Well, we've established the most glaring one: any promise of guaranteed inclusion in an AI summary. If an agency writes a contract guaranteeing you will be the definitive answer for a specific generative query, the meeting should end.
Right there.
Yeah, they are selling an illusion based on legacy search behaviors.
Another major red flag highlighted in the research is an overemphasis on traditional off-page metrics as the primary driver of AI visibility, just getting backlinks.
While authority and external validation still play a role in how a model evaluates a source, relying purely on volume-based link metrics is a massive red flag.
Why is that so dangerous now?
In a synthesis engine, 1,000 external links pointing to a website with a fractured, contradictory internal data structure simply gives the AI 1,000 pathways to confusion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If an agency's strategy is heavily weighted toward traditional off-page tactics without a deep, rigorous focus on your internal semantic structure, they're missing the core requirement of generative optimization.
Then there's the issue of language. A significant warning sign is an agency utilizing vague, highly technical-sounding jargon that lacks any concrete structural explanation.
If a vendor is constantly throwing around phrases like algorithm synergy or dynamic AI integration,
Sounds impressive.
it does. But if they cannot clearly whiteboard exactly how they adjust your page architecture or consolidate your entity data, they're obscuring a lack of methodology. The mechanics of structuring data for a machine are highly logical and highly technical, but they aren't magic.
A genuine practitioner can explain their structural execution clearly.
Very clearly.
And if they can't explain the mechanics, they likely don't possess them. So, to synthesize this entire framework for you, our listener, it boils down to prioritizing structural truth over superficial metrics. Choose an agency that focuses on clarity, structure, and interpretive confidence over shortcuts or exaggerated claims.
The defining mandate of this new landscape is that your business must be unequivocally understandable to a machine.
When evaluating an agency, your focus must be on finding a partner who possesses a rigorous, verifiable methodology for establishing interpretive clarity, building internal consistency, and stacking confidence signals. You are looking for data architects, not just promoters.
Beautifully said. Keep those 4 questions front and center. Refuse to accept legacy metrics for a generative platform, and demand transparency in how they actually influence the machine's understanding of your brand.
AI visibility ultimately depends on your business being clearly understandable to the machine. It requires a complete shift in how businesses view their digital footprint. You are no longer just publishing content to look authoritative, you're structuring data to be perfectly synthesized.
And that leaves us with a deeply consequential, almost philosophical implication to consider as this technology scales.
Let's hear it.
If the future of enterprise discovery relies entirely on interpretive clarity and strict internal consistency, so that a machine can process your value without a single point of contradiction, how might this fundamentally alter human communication and branding?
Oh, that's interesting.
Will the immense structural demand for machine readability ultimately force human creativity, nuance, and unconventional thought into a rigid, mathematically optimized box?
A terrifying thought.
If the machine penalizes contradiction and requires absolute literalism to confidently recommend you, we have to ask ourselves, what happens to the art of standing out when the only way to be found is to be perfectly standardized?
Wow. That is definitely something to mull over. Will the demand for machine readability kill human creativity? Take those insights into your next big business decision. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we will catch you next time.